G'day everyone, my name's Josh. I'm here making this little bit of a video just to first up wish Pope Dilius a happy birthday and send my apologies for not being able to be there at this time. I don't know if you're wondering why I call him Pope Dilius, but when Dylan was up here in Brisbane before he was married, we all lived in a YSA house together, and while I call it a YSA house, it was a bit more than that. We were all very close, much like brothers, while we lived there, and it was a wonderful, wonderful experience. We had a name for our house, and we called it the Monastery. If any of you are wondering why I called it the Monastery, it was because it was a place where a bunch of old single men congregated and lived together, and we sometimes even spoke about some spiritual stuff. And so we called it the Monastery, and we had a lot of fun there. It was a wonderful place for a lot of people in the ward to come and visit and to hang out, and we were able to form a very tight brotherhood while we were there. One of the things that we did do was establish a few good traditions. First up, it was our love of ginger beer and Bundaberg ginger beer, and we used to drink that on every special occasion while we were living there, and since that day as well. Another tradition that we started while we were there was the fact that we would continually write songs, or better still, write new words to already hit songs. Anytime that one of the monks, people who lived there, had a special event happen in their life. Dylan's was the first when he got married to Renee. We changed the words to a song, and we performed it at his Bucks night, and then again at his wedding the next day. And we had a lot of fun doing that, and it was a good chance for us to express how we felt about Dylan and the brotherhood that we shared. But it was also a good chance to give him a bit of a ribbing and just give Renee one last chance to find out what she was getting herself into. But it was great. None of us can sing. It was done out of love for our brother Dylan. He's a good man, and we love him very much. While we lived with Dylan, we had a chance to get to know him pretty well. So we were able to fill up this song that we wrote for him, and I think you'll see a bit of it later on. But it goes for about 6 minutes, 7 minutes, and excuse me, and it's just full of our experiences with Dylan. And I just wanted to share a couple of those with you briefly today, because I couldn't be there. But one of the things I learned about Dylan when I lived there was he was full of quirks. He was a very quirky individual. One of the things I did figure out very quickly after I moved in there was the fact that you should really wear shoes at all times when within the monastery, within the walls of our home. And it was mainly because if not, you were likely to get a toenail embedded in the bottom of your foot and cry out in pain, much because Dylan would often cut his toenails and then just leave them in the carpet. And so it's 7 o'clock on a Saturday morning when you wake up. That's not what you want to wake up to, sharp pain in the bottom of your foot. So first rule was wear shoes wherever you walked around. One of the other things I learned about Dylan was, and this actually happened before I moved in there, was the fact that he didn't have a car when we knew him back then. And one day we were at a TFY, I think it was, and he needed to get to the doctors, and I said, "Oh, you can't, mate." He borrowed my car, and I said, "Yep, that's not a problem. Yep, you're all good." And I soon realised that was actually a bit of a habit for him. He would often borrow the monks' cars and take them, and we wouldn't see them for a great length of period. I personally didn't see my car until the next day. I don't know which doctor he went to, whether it was some shaman in the middle of nowhere or what, but yeah, he was borrowing the cars. Another thing was that if you didn't fall asleep in the house before Dylan, chances are you probably wouldn't get to sleep, mainly because he snored like there was no tomorrow. You thought the walls were going to be coming in, you thought caving in, you didn't know what was happening. A squadron of fighter jets was probably flying over or what, but he would snore so loud. And yeah, so you had to make sure that you were in bed before him, or you you were asleep before he got to sleeping. Another thing, living in the same house, we always had to share a clothesline, and usually that's probably not such a bad idea, not a bad thing, having to share a clothesline. But Dylan would make it a routine habit where he would wash his clothes very regularly enough, and when he would hang them out, he would just leave them there for weeks at a time, until he'd pull them off the line and they'd just be as stiff as a board, and you had to shake him and try and scrub them up. But yeah, he would never take his clothes off the line. He'd wash them, he'd hang them out, but he'd never bring them up off the line. And so you were always fighting for clothesline space as well. I don't know if you guys heard down there, but a few years ago we had a pretty bad drought up here in Brisbane. We ran out of water, and I'd just like to let you know that they found out the cause of that, and that's because as soon as Dylan left, we had plenty of water in our dams. Dylan used to shower for an extraordinarily long period of time. Again, you had to get up first thing in the morning and beat into the shower, or else that was it. It was over. You were late for your day to get started. But the floods that we had up here recently, that's because I was still not compensating for the fact that Dylan had left, and they didn't account for that, and so that's why we had those big floods up here. So hopefully they've learned from that mistake, and they'll be able to remedy that in the future, and hopefully you guys have got enough water down there, and Dylan's not taking such long showers, or if he is, that you guys have a good supply. One other thing about Dylan is the fact that he has what is known as Dylanitis. It's actually a proper disease that you can get, and we actually found out it's actually contagious. But it's basically the fact that once you set your mind to something, or once whatever's the focus of your attention at that point, everything else disappears. Doesn't matter what's happening around you. If you walk into a room and you want to go straight and get something out of the fridge, that's what's on your program. You could be sitting in the couch and you'd be like, "Hey Dylan," and he'd whatever was on his program, he wouldn't even hear you. He'd just walk in, grab it, walk back out again. And we actually found out that it was contagious because after Dylan left, one of the other monks, Chorus, actually contracted this disease, and it was a run-on effect from there. So be careful down there, don't get too close. Don't get too close to Dylan. But all in all, it was a really good experience living with Dylan. We love him and we miss him. I'm sure, like I said, you'll get to see the bit of the song later on, but the last verses talks about how we feel about Dylan. We love him. He was our leader. He was our older brother. He was always really keen to help out and to do the best that he could to help us sort through our problems and whatever. But he was a great example of what it took to be a leader and to take care of those people who needed to be taken care of if we didn't ask for all the time. But just one more time, happy birthday, Pope, and I hope everything's going well for you down there in Sydney. We hope to see you up here one time soon. And sorry that we couldn't make it down there, but happy birthday, and love to all. See ya.